What's up, everyone? Welcome to Bluegrass State of Mind, the show where three college roommates talk life, sports, and all the ridiculous things that happen in an apartment we like to refer to as Room 302. We're bringing you stories, hot takes, and the kind of late-night debates that probably should have stayed in the group chat.
So grab your headphones, sit back, and get ready for a wild ride through our past college life, sports, and everything in between. Let's get into it. This is Bluegrass State of Mind.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Bluegrass State of Mind. Got a fun episode in store for y'all tonight. First off, thank y'all for listening. If you are not subscribing to our YouTube channel, go ahead and do that. Share it with a friend. If you are enjoying our reels, give us some comments on that. All of our platforms on the Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and of course on YouTube as well. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. So we're on all platforms. Tonight, fellas, we are going to touch on a new segment of BSM from the stands. We'll get that here in a minute. Then we're going to talk a little bit about Mark Pope finally addressing BBN, finally talking to the fans. We'll talk a little bit of big news, possibly for Kentucky, landing a big-time recruit, the only recruit possibly left. And then we are going to get into favorite things about Kentucky, and that's kind of everywhere. So let's start out with our new segment tonight. For those who are listening, we're going to be starting a new segment for each episode, and this is going to be titled BSM from the Stands. BSM, short for Bluegrass State of Mind. And basically what this is going to be is each week, each episode, me, myself, and Mason and Colton will alternate and select a comment that is left on our YouTube channel. And then we might do some reels, but mainly the whole entire episode for those who are watching the episode, knowing that they can take it for what it is in context rather than just the reels. But what we'll do is we'll just kind of give our thoughts on that. And the best thing about this is, so I'm started out tonight. I'm going to be reading you all a comment that I have selected, and Mason and Colton do not know what the comment is. So this is the first time they're hearing it, unless they went through and read a bunch of them. I don't know. You may have not done that, guys. So this will be the first time you're hearing this, so that we can get your natural reaction to it. And that's kind of what we're going to do. So for you all who are watching this and enjoy Bluegrass State of Mind, leave us comments. And really, we're just going to pick one that we want to, I guess not debate. We can debate it, I guess. We can do whatever we want with it, but it could be something we totally agree with, totally disagree. It could be a wild take. But yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun with it. So this is the first time we are doing this segment, BSM from the Stands. All right, fellas. So one comment in our YouTube video stated, and this was in regards to whenever we were talking about how Mark Pope is missing out on recruits and just not getting the job done. This person writes, all three arguments dissolve when you reintroduce what is being buried. 60% of the preseason projected tournament starters were injured both years. Mark Pope recruited 2 Final Four caliber rosters in his first 2 years. The injuries prevented us from achieving the objective. No coach has overcome, in quotations, ever, in parentheses, ever, losing 60% of their preseason tournament starters. It happened to both of Pope's squads, yet still beat Duke, beat Louisville, beat Arkansas, beat Tennessee, beat Purdue, and made NCAA in the tournament. Not on the bubble. Mark Pope, with these injured groups, won 13 games against AP Top 25 ranked teams in 2 consecutive seasons, something Hall of Famer John Calipari only did 3 times in his 34-year career. The record reveals an incredible accomplishment. No one is seeing it because they are burying the elephant in the room circumstances in their assessment. Why are people burying this? That's the question. Why don't people insist on seeing things as they are, which are actually the facts, and instead run with an alternative narrative? Hide the ball in logically following somebody else. Why this deception? Is it intentional? It is an oversight. How could anyone forget having 2 rosters where 60% of the preseason tournament starters were injured? This is why people question, do you hate Mark Pope or do you just hate Mark Pope? And by the way, when your recruiting criticisms are applied to UConn, they dissolve. UConn has the gold standard recruiting strategy and fails all of your John Calipari one-and-done residue crack pipe dreams sniff test. Hurley has been to 3 of the past 4 title games, and all 3 of you guys would give him an F in recruiting. The fact is casual fans don't develop title contender blueprints by following the herd. Complain all you want, but don't bury the elephant in order to make your point appear more valid. That's a lot.
Yeah,
So this is, it was, and I know it was long, but I selected it because it's a lot of information. Colton, what is your initial reaction from this first comment in BSM from the stands?
I fell asleep halfway through it because he lost my interest when he said he's put together 2 Final Four caliber rosters. Let's get out of here with that nonsense. I know we suffered injuries, but I don't care if JQ and Jalen Lowe was out. Listen, there's a reason Jalen Lowe left and has gone to Georgetown. If he was a Final Four type point guard, I believe we'd have done everything we could to keep him. But what did we decide to do? We said we're going to go get someone we think is actually better. So let's calm it down on 2 Final Four caliber rosters. Yes, injuries were a big part of the first 2 seasons. There's no doubt about that. But just because we had those injuries doesn't mean that, listen, Jalen Lowe and JQ played together for what, 4 games, 5 games, 6 games, something like that? I mean, Jalen Lowe was out there when we got beat by 20 to Alabama and 20 to Louisville, or I guess it ended up being a little less, but it was a blowout. Like, let's stop pretending like the injuries were a big deal. Cam Williams came back. Maybe he wasn't the same, but let's be honest. I mean, right before he got hurt, it wasn't like Cam Williams was dropping 20 points a game, 30 points. Like, it's not. They were, yes, they killed us as far as depth went because we heard about a roster was supposed to be built on depth, and we had a Ferrari, is what Pope said. And then all of a sudden, you have a few injuries, and that depth that you claim to have doesn't look as deep anymore. And yes, you can say, well, there's just so many injuries. Well, let me ask you this. How many times, I mean, I'm not saying that like Aberdeen didn't do a bad job kind of being the point guard, but you recruited 13 guys to essentially get some playing time, and you didn't get a true backup point guard. You made Aberdeen play a position that essentially he wasn't brought there to play because you chose to not bring in a backup point guard. So yes, you can get mad at all the injuries, you can claim all you want, but the fact of the matter is that the roster construction was not what he thought it was, and it was a letdown, and it was not Final Four roster either year. I mean, I think he overachieved with the team he had the year before. I don't think they were that talented. I think they were just seniors that played with a lot of heart, and I'll credit them for that. But to say Final Four type rosters, like Final Four rosters don't get beat by 20 or 30 when one guy's out. That's not that.
I may give this fan or this person, I hope he's a fan, or she, I may give them the first year win, but again, I think it was a stretch for the Final Four. Like, they would have to have made a good run. Could they have done that? Possibly. Now, this past year, I think one of the things that for the ones who say that injury, we've talked about it on the show. When you go recruit a guy coming off an ACL tear or an ACL injury, whatever it was, you are taking a big chance, a big risk. And it's hard for me to sit here and think that, as smart as Mark Pope is and this staff, they had to have known that this was a chance, like he might not be who the lottery pick, the top 5 pick that he once was. And due to that injury, we got the bad luck, I guess, so I do not see this past year's team on pen and paper at preseason. Absolutely. Yeah, maybe like we was thinking like, oh yeah, this might be a Final Four caliber team. But we were proven wrong. Mason, what's your reaction to this comment? And do you want anything else you want me to read up on again? Like you forget, like say that again, or are you good?
No, I'll just kind of touch on a couple things here. I do agree with your point. I think the first season, I'd probably lean more of a potential Final Four caliber. Not because we necessarily had the players for it. I just think that team gelled well together and they fit well with Pope's philosophy. We beat Florida, we beat Duke. We had some good wins that season, but it's hard when you get in the tournament and you're losing your top scorer and your starting point guard, and Andrew Carr's been dealing with injuries. So I mean, and we've talked about that too, right? Like, I think for that first season with all the injuries, Pope did a great job. Like, he overachieved his first season. This year, obviously, we were kind of let down a little bit, but I think the biggest thing that I come back to is, he's talking about, we say that Pope can't recruit. Well, that's the biggest question in my eyes right now, because he brought up John Calipari in that comment, right, about how John Calipari never done that in his career. Look at the roster that John Calipari had this past year compared to the roster that Pope had, right? Like, you just look at those rosters and you're like, man, Arkansas has so much more talent than we do, right? And so I think that's the biggest thing for me. Like, I think Pope has proven that he can coach, and the X's and O's things, but if he could get, like, we all want to see what he can do if he gets these big time guys in there, because he has failed to do that. I don't know that it's so much that everybody's like, oh, he can't recruit. I mean, he can get guys in there, but he's not getting these top guys that are his first options is the biggest issue that I have with everything right now. I just want to see that 1 year. I want to see what he does with that, because he's done an okay job these first 2 years with what he's been able to get. He just hadn't been able to lock down some of those guys that he really wants. And I do think last year was a poorly constructed roster, based on how he likes to play the game on the offensive side of the ball. And I think he probably read into things too much after that first year. And, everybody's saying, we got to get more athletic. We got to get this, we got to get that. And he went out and did that, but he forgot what his true philosophy is and what his teams excel at. And those weren't the type of players that we had last year. So I think it's still valid to sit there and question, can Pope recruit? Because he hasn't proven that yet. He hasn't landed a top guy or one of his top targets yet. He hadn't done it.
Well, and I think for me, there's two things, and we haven't brought this up yet, but whenever he brought up the whole Dan Hurley, and I keep saying he, it could be a she, I'm not sure, but whenever they were talking about the Dan Hurley, how it is a good point that, Hurley, he isn't necessarily killing it in the recruiting, I guess, these all-stars. But here is a big difference. He is retaining great players. So is Todd Golden. Like, if Mark Pope, I mean, look at how many guys left this year. Like, Mark Pope is not getting guys in and being able to, I guess more so than retain them at first, is see this substantial difference and this big leap in their play. And then if they're doing great, then retain them. Like, that's what Dan Hurley. So, yeah, Dan Hurley doesn't have to go out and get these all-star freshmen. He can get one or two if he wants, but no, he doesn't have to fill up his entire roster because he's able to retain guys who were good and then elevated their game to great. Look at Todd Golden's roster this year. Todd Golden, Colton, you've said it multiple times. Look at him. Has he been able to recruit? Like, look at his recruiting classes. But the difference is he doesn't have to. He's retaining these guys who, again, are being good and great guys. I mean, he's bringing back his whole entire roster this year, pretty much. So, yeah, they don't have to go out. And he already knows what these guys are going to bring to the table because they've been so successful already. So, yeah, I mean, like, Mark Pope can't retain guys. So, yeah, he's going to have to try to go land some big-time recruits. Mason, was you about to say something?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to get to that point, too. Like, you sit here and talk about Dan Hurley and these Todd Goldens, and it's okay if they don't because they coach completely different, right? Like, they get these guys who are hard-nosed and they get the most out of their guys, and they have a style of basketball that they play and that works for them, right? Like, they don't have to have these stars every single season because of the way that they coach their players, and Pope doesn't do that. Like, if he was to coach them like that, then I think our team last year could have been okay, right? Like, if he was going to coach them like Dan Hurley did, like, you give Dan Hurley our team last year, I mean, I think they probably make a decent run.
It's at least 5 or 6 more wins.
Yeah,
I believe.
Yeah.
Well, and then that, I guess we could get into that another time, but on, it might contradict what we our assumption at the very early stages is like we didn't question Mark Pope's X's and O's of coaching, but we've sort of seen a change. So maybe we could get that at some point. But coming in is what I'm talking about. Like, we didn't really question that because he usually got the most out of his guys. The last thing that this comment, it just continuously is talking about, the question is, do we hate Mark Pope or do you just hate Mark Pope? And again, Mason, I loved your example on our last episode. I thought about this today because obviously I had an advantage on this one because I was able to pick it out and look at it. But, I think about, when I was teaching, things happen like, okay, and I say this, follow me here. All right. So if I'm teaching a classroom, okay, and I'm teaching a tested area, all right, if those students do not perform well on the test, who's at fault? Who are they going to look to blame, the students or the teacher?
Teacher.
The teacher, right? Okay. Well, what happens if you have a class that comes in that kind of has that, that cloud over them, or they have that, all throughout their years, they've been the bad class or the class that just isn't as smart? Do you think that the administrators are going to look at me any differently or still expect good results?
Yeah, still expect good results.
They're still going to expect good results. So when thinking of it on that mindset, no matter what the injuries were, if that's the road you want to go down, no matter what, adversity hits Mark Pope. Adversity might hit, in my example, a teacher. You still are the person in control, and you have to get results out of your students and out of your players, regardless of the situation. And then I go back to, what am I talking about? I'm talking about a job here, Mason. Like you said, if you are not doing your job, you are going to get criticized, and then you are going to get, in a teacher's, you could get pink slipped, and then eventually possibly fired. That's just part of life. If you are not meeting expectations, and we're all in sales, if we're not meeting our quota, then you think that our bosses are just, what's going to happen? You think your boss is just going to kind of not look at that and not going to bring it up and criticize? You don't think that your partners or your the people that oversee you, that's not just your boss that you go to, they're not going to critique you, maybe hey, we need to do something different here? No, they're going to talk to you about it. They're going to be like, hey, you got to change something because what you're doing right now is not working. And that's the way I look at this. So, anything else on this comment? Last one, I'll give it to y'all.
Yeah, I mean, no, I don't hate Mark Pope. I think Mark Pope is a good guy. I really do. I love that he was a champion for us. And I've continued to say over and over again that there would be nothing more awesome than a former player champion to lead the University of Kentucky to another championship. That would be an incredible story. You talk about the pride of Kentucky. You talk about the fan base really rallying around each other. That would be amazing. But he has to, it does not matter. If you want to talk about the Kentucky brand being bigger than any one guy, well, then that includes a guy that even won it here. Just because he won it does not excuse him from criticism. So just because he won it as a player does not excuse him from the lack of production that we've seen in the first 2 years. And you can sit there and say, well, look what Calipari did his last 4 years. When we begin trying, that's what makes me so mad at anything, is when we start trying to compare our success now to our last 4 years of the Cal era instead of the first 10 years of the Cal era, we've lost our way. We've lost our way. If we start, then we're looking for an excuse out. We're looking to say, hey, round of 32 is better than the first round. That's any better for Kentucky. You've lost your way as a Kentucky fan, or what you expect from Kentucky basketball, if that's where you start making comparisons. So if we don't wake up and get back to where we want to be at, realistic or not, NIL or not, there's still blue bloods out there dominating. And we have as much money as anyone out there. So what are we going to do about it?
I tell you what, going back to that last comment, do you hate Mark Pope? Go back and listen to just about every episode since Mark Pope got hired, and I guarantee you in 90% of them I've defended Pope for most of the time. And I defended him through most of this season. And I said this offseason is the most important piece of Pope's tenure here, because you look at some of these new coaches, all right? John Shire, he got to Duke after Mike Krzyzewski, right? He had a couple years where he was pretty successful, was able to land some recruits. He's already built that reputation up, right? At this point, Pope has no reputation. Like I said,
he does. He does have a reputation. His reputation is that he's weird, and that's not from
a
us.
good one. Yeah.
But again, that's what I'm talking about. And I'll let you finish, but I think that's important. Like, that's the kind of stuff that people are saying, like, why are you saying that Mark Pope is weird? That is not coming directly from us. That is coming from players who are interacting with him face to face. These recruits, every recruit is saying Mark Pope and his staff is just odd. They're weird. So then we're saying, like, okay, he must be weird. I don't know. I mean, that's what they're saying. Like, I mean, that's just what there is being said about him. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's just what we're hearing. But go ahead, Mason.
Yeah, but like I said it towards the middle of the season. I was like, if he doesn't land Stokes, or if he doesn't get one or two of the top 10 transfer players, his reputation with these recruits is over. And he hasn't done that. And yes, there may be the Momcilovic left out there that we're going to get to here in a minute, but still at that point, what other teams have money left to spend, right? I know there's probably a couple out there, but even if he does win that, it's almost like a like a last second, Hail Mary that he just happens to land. So I think at this point, it's not that I hate Pope. It's just I think he's cooked. I don't think he has a reputation with these players. I don't think the other coaches respect him. I just don't think he has what it takes to be here at Kentucky based on his first two, 3 off seasons here. Like, he hasn't proven that he can get the job done and get the type of players that you need at the University of Kentucky.
And, we're saying all this, but yes, there is still time. There is still time we don't have a full roster yet. And when I say time, even at that with our roster, we still haven't seen our roster play a full game. And we'll get to our roster. Like, I like this roster. Do I love it? I'm not there on loving it, but like, yes. I mean, we have potential to win some big games, probably. But do we have the potential to be that Elite 8 Final Four? I don't really want to say no. I don't want to say yes, but it doesn't look okay.
No.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to stay a little bit optimistic. But let's get into that. Let's get into kind of maybe a reputation that kind of maybe a good step forward for Mark Pope. So all that, BBN has talked about is, where is Mark Pope? Where are you at, big dog? Come on, talk to us. Like, are you on planet Earth? Where have you went to ever since your show with Tom Leach after following the loss to Iowa State, whenever he got on there and compared stats? So when looking at that, we finally get to see Mark Pope later this week. Mark Pope gets on Twitter, out of all places, gets on, or X, and says, "Hey, BBN," and kind of just says, "Send me questions. We want to talk." Okay? I'll be honest with y'all. When I first seen this video that you all sent me, I was like, oh no. Because, like, of all places, I'm thinking, like, if he's going to talk to us, he's going to maybe get on a radio show, maybe sit down with Tom Leach, like an article. I think going on X was the last thing that I thought he would do. What was y'all's feelings on that? Like, when he first put out this video, like, what was your first initial thoughts immediately?
It was going to get ugly.
Yeah.
It was going to get bad.
I said in our group chat, I said, he can't be this dumb, right? Like, he was going to medical school. He cannot be this dumb wanting to bring all this heat on him. But I mean, he responded to it.
Yeah. And, and I think, though, it's a good point for us to point out, though, that the reason I think that we're all saying this, like, well, why maybe that wasn't a great idea to do it on X, was just because that is where your keyboard warriors are at. That's where everybody, they don't hold back. Like, X is awful. Like it's hilarious and it's great for information, but at the end of the day, it is awful too on some of the stuff people put on there. However, though, we ask, we receive. So I think that it's also notable saying like we want Mark Pope to address this. He addressed it. So let's kind of unpack it and peel back those onions and look at what he said. So it wasn't as bad as I thought it was, or he approached it, I guess, in the best way he could have. So he answered some questions. Some of the top questions that were proposed to him. Is Kentucky being used to leverage more NIL numbers? Basically, that's what it was. He answered and said, yes, we are the biggest brand in basketball. What about that one? I mean, I think he's honest. I mean, I do think that regardless of if we are the laughingstock of college basketball that Mason made us famous for, no matter what players think of Mark Pope, no matter what other fan bases they dislike us, hate us, we're still the biggest brand in basketball. I mean, I think he's right. What do y'all think?
I agree. We talked about this throughout the transfer portal and how some of these players may just be using us to try to get a bigger bag. But if Pope knows that, like, this is what I come back to. Like, if Pope knows that, adjust the way you approach these kids. Like I've said it over and over. Sit down with them and you tell them, this is your offer. If you walk out that door, it's gone. We're not playing this back and forth game. You're not going to use us to leverage more money. This is your offer. If you want to come play here and try to win a national championship with some of these other guys that we're going to bring in here, then do it. If not, see you later. We're moving on to the next person. So if he's willing to come out and say that, then change the way you are approaching things.
Yeah. Colton, the next question, I was so shocked because here's what my thought was. Whenever I had seen this video, Colton, I thought that he was about to pick out some pretty easy questions. He wasn't going to choose any of the ones that like true questions like we're wanting to know. And that first one was one. And this one right here, I was like, okay, thank you, Mark Pope. I'm glad you addressed this. But one of the other questions, which I thought was the best question that he answered, saying, what changes are being made in recruiting when, and I'm just paraphrasing, when 14 of the top 20 kids come and visit and you don't land any of them? And again, I was paraphrasing that. So basically the question was, hey, what changes are going to be made? You had 14 of the top 20 here. We didn't land any of them. What's going on? And he answered saying, moving forward, he wants to get all 20 of those kids there. He wants to land some of them. And then he kind of references Tyrone Stokes, saying this past year they were chasing a generational talent and they ended up falling short. However, though, they ended up building a roster that they love and that he thinks will crush it. What was when you heard that, Colton? I saw the face change towards the end, but like let's unpack it the first two where he was saying first, let's get all 20 of them there, and then let's actually land some.
I mean, I feel like there's a lot of beating around the bush there. Like if you want to say giving an actual answer. No, they didn't give no actual answer. Okay, so you can miss out on 6 more? Like, don't tell me like you're not giving me a no. I don't want to know that. I don't. So essentially, you're saying, well, the first 14 didn't work out. Let's try the last 6 and see if we can improve our odds. I mean, I guess you give yourself 6 more chances, or why don't you try? If I told you you were going to get 14 chances out of 20, why don't you land 1 or 2 of those? I mean, I think he handled all that professionally, so I'll give him credit for that.
Is it political? Is that what you'd say, more
it's a political answer. I think you have to, if you're going to make yourself do that, and you're going to be able to take questions like that, that's the only way you really can answer, right?
But he did own up. He did own it, though. He did say, hey, we missed. We went and we chased a generational talent. We missed out on it. However, I do like how he tried to, I mean, as Mark Pope would do, he tried to stay positive. So I'm going to try to stay positive. I mean, I do like that he said, hey, we still have a good roster though this year. It's not complete. Now, we don't know, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think our backcourt can be pretty solid. I think Diallo and Wilkins I think they're going to have their moments when we're like, this is a pretty good duo. Moreno comes back. He ought to be a very solid center from us. And then it's really, Cam Williams, we know a little bit what we get with him. He was a little inconsistent, injured some. But I think another year, Cam Williams, should be a big deal. And then really it's just a bunch of question marks, right?
Right.
Man, and that's the thing, is that you don't know that any of those guys I just named, you think every one of them can be good. You don't know that any of them are stars, and then you have no idea if the other question marks can even be good, right? You're just hoping that they're just decent. And so like I said, I give him a lot of credit for answering those things. In that particular question, I would just like to see, which granted you can't come on TV or you can't come on thing and be like, going forward, this is what we're going to do with recruiting. Like, we're going to start bringing them in and we're going to start giving them. But, going back to what Mason said, it's a respect thing, right? Like Mason said it, like when they get in there, instead of using for leverage, they've got to respect you. And they're not. All they are using the money for is like they're using Kentucky for the money, and they don't care at all that Pope's the one pitching. They're already determined that they're not going to play for Pope. But you put Bill Self in the room, Tom Izzo, Dan Hurley, all of a sudden they're listening to those guys, right? All of a sudden when they're pitching a number, they're like, hey, it might be a little less than what I'm going for at that next school, but you're someone I want to play for, because they respect those guys. So what if he had to change something in recruiting, it would be, what do I have to do in order to earn that respect that a coach should have coaching the University of Kentucky?
I want to come back to that, but I want to stay on this too, because I do want to comment on that. But, you mentioned Malachi Moreno. That was another question that was kind of proposed. They was talking about, hey, I'm worried about our depth at the 5 spot with Moreno, possibly going up in the draft boards, could be a lottery, could be first round, what about that? And his answer was, hey, Malachi Moreno was the number one. He said the number one priority for them going into this portal season. I like it, because I do think a year 2 Malachi Moreno. Now, I think that is also a little risky if that's you are number one priority, just because what all is Malachi Moreno going to do? How impactful truly is he going to be year 2? I don't know. He said that they truly believe he's going to be the number one center in America. I hope he is. Do I think the potential's there? Yes, I do. There's a lot of growth, though, that needs to come. But when I heard that, I was like, okay, I love that Mark Pope has that faith in his player, Kentucky boy. He sees it, he wants it, and he was like, hey, we already seen what you done. We're going to make you a priority. The only thing, if I had to, play devil's advocate, it'd be like, okay, again, if that is your number one priority, what did that possibly take away from other guys that could have been truly difference makers, I guess, if that makes sense? Because I'm looking at some other guys in this transfer portal that we would have loved to have got and brought back and been like, oh man, look at the difference that guy's going to make immediately. Now, Malachi Moreno, he might be that guy. I hope he is. But, when you think of just impact at the game right now at the center position, how many big guys right now in your head from this past year was at the center spot that was just the guy?
The guy, or a very big guy? Because I would say Mara from Michigan was a very impactful guy. 7 foot. He was a big
He was very impactful, but I'm talking about talking about your number one priority though. I would say Michigan, Yaxel was the number one priority.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
okay. That's where my head's at.
I'd maybe give you Vocatitis at Texas.
Yeah, Vocatitis at Texas probably was their best player.
But my point is that if he was your number one priority, did it take away from other guys being the priority? Could you have leveraged and went out and got another guy. Not saying replace Malachi Moreno, but I'm talking about a different spot to be that your number one priority. Because would Malachi Moreno leave? Maybe. You know, I mean, he had a pretty good season. So I don't know. That was kind of what was going in my head. Any comments on that?
I mean, I mean, you look at the roster we currently have. Now, let's say we would have kept Mo. So let's say we have Mo coming back, and say we would have kept. Now looking back at it, granted, I don't know if he's going to get approved or not, but say you would have kept either Aberdeen or Chandler. You didn't have to keep both. But say you would have had one of those two guys back. Well, then all of a sudden you're thinking, okay, if we can find a backup center and Moreno's back, I mean, I'm not saying that you're Final Four bound or anything, but I think we're feeling a little better about our roster, right? We're looking at like, hey, these guys, you know, they get hot. I could definitely see a Sweet 16, maybe a Elite 8 run. But, you know, did you focus so much on Moreno, like the way you're saying, that you maybe you was like, we're just going to let Mo walk. We're going to let, you know, Aberdeen. Granted, I don't know that the Aberdeen situation wasn't more like we just thought that he was done. And then he just kind of surprised us with a, hey, I'm leaving. But, yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, you could sit there and say that you put so much focus on them that you maybe, yeah, but if you would have kept, or I look, they seem to be very happy with, like, they seem to act like Brandon Garrison's a big get at Alabama. I mean, they're talking a lot more, like he's a very good get at Alabama compared to, like, the way that we talked about Brandon Garrison for a lot of the season. Now, granted, last 2 weeks, Brandon Garrison might have been our best player on the team. But, so if Alabama gets that Brandon Garrison for a full season, and I do think that the way that they play offense, that they've got a better chance of getting a consistent Brandon Garrison like that than what we did. But, you know, now the way that you sound, well, hey, what if he was still back here, right? What if you had another year of Moreno and Garrison, right? But it's hit or miss.
Right, but I think that goes back to, like, could they have leveraged, you know, Moreno? Because was he going to go elsewhere? Was he going to, like, leave if they wasn't the centerpiece or if they didn't make him the number one priority? Possibly. And that's what you got. Like, that's why I would not want that position, because then it's like, okay, you know, what are you going to go with? You know, you can look at it two ways, and you just don't know. You don't know until you hit the court next season. All right, Mason, last question I want to get to that I thought was good. But he said, and I think you'll like this, you as a guard yourself. Question was, what's your favorite aspect of Zoom Diallo and Alex Wilkins' game? And Pope said, top priorities going into the portal was to find creators. And these are two elite creators. He said elite creators. Dynamic duo for Kentucky basketball, both over 30% assist rate last year. What was initial thoughts on that, Mason? With Diallo and Wilkins.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I like that. You know how I played the game. I was kind of that pass first, pass second, shoot if it comes down to it. So I like having those creators. It just, I think my biggest question around that is, like, yes, you have Zoom Diallo, you have Alex Wilkins, you have Cam Williams, but, like, do we have the guys around them who are going to be able to make plays off of them is kind of my biggest question right now. And I'm glad we went and got those guys, because I do think Alex Wilkins can be that guy who takes that leap that can go get a bucket for us. I don't know that Zoom Diallo has that aspect shooting wise. I do think he's very athletic, is good at, you know, kind of getting where he wants on the floor. But go ahead. I see you're about to say something.
No, well, keep going. But it was surprising because he didn't say anything about scoring. Like, he said creators, and whenever I hear a, you know, top priority going to get creators was, you know, creating for others, but also creating for themselves to be able to go get a bucket. And it seems as if he was alluding, because he didn't say anything about scoring. He was talking about their assist rate. So, I don't know. I that kind of was like, kind of not raising an eyebrow, but I was just like, oh, that's different. Because when I thought of creators, that's what I thought of.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. You know, you think of a creator in my eyes is somebody who can go get a bucket, right? I think the way he's talking is more like a 30% assist rate is kind of more like a a point guard who controls the game, right? Like a true point guard, right? Would kind of be what I see it as in my eyes. But I just keep going back to like, yes, we have these creators, but I guess you have Cam Williams, who shoots the ball well. Justin McBride shoots the ball pretty well. It just
It might fit his system.
Yeah, that's what I kind of am sitting here thinking. Like it might fit his system well. The more that I've kind of been looking at the roster, it kind of reminds me a little bit more of the first team, right?
And we're starting to build that up like we're going to be great.
No, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I'm just saying. I think that with these two guys and the guys that we have been able to get in the transfer portal, I think that it fits his system better, which, I mean, we saw it with that first team. We weren't always more talented than teams, but we could go out on a given night and put up 100 because we shot the ball well. We had guys who could knock it down and some guys who create, get other guys open looks. So I do like having both of them in the backcourt. We've talked about it. Colton's already brought it up this episode here that I like our backcourt. I just don't know about that, the 3 through 4. If we get Moreno back, I like him at the 5. It's just, kind of that 3 through 4 spot. And then if we don't get Moreno back, then we got a really big kind of gap there. So,
yeah. Well, I told you I was going to circle back to this. So now we're going to get it real quick, and then we'll get into Milan Maklovic from Iowa State. So Colton, you was talking about how, the respect factor, these recruits, like when they come in, that's kind of the recruiting thing. And I sent this to you all, but I want to talk just about 5 minutes, maybe even shorter than that. Okay, so here is my question. Do we think that, yes, Mark Pope was kind of a little odd and maybe weird with the first couple of recruits 2 years ago? Yes. Okay. Because then there was, the recruits were saying this guy's a little odd. The coaching staff, they're weird. Like that's coming from most of these recruits. But my question is, following up on that question, is do you all think that Mark Pope changed his approach? And the reason why I ask that, because he's hearing this. He has to be hearing this. His coaching staff has to be hearing all this noise. So the way that I look at it is that, okay, let's say that somebody comes up to you and they say, hey, so-and-so is a really bad person. They're very negative. They don't do nothing but talk about other people in a negative way. So before you even meet this person, you already have this reputation built in your mind, and you're thinking like, this guy that I'm going to meet for the first time, he's a bad guy. That's all I've heard. So my question is does these recruits, when they're coming to see Mark Pope on these recruiting trips, do they already have this prejudgment in their heads that, hey, Mark Pope's weird? So the conversation that they're having, they're already having these thoughts, and they're not even really giving Mark Pope a chance. And the conversation that they're having just isn't natural because they're already having this judgment based on other people's opinions. Because I have to think that he has changed his approach or changed something, right? Like he's had to change something. So is Mark Pope even getting a fair chance with these recruits just because of this reputation that has been built around him on just a couple recruits in his early years at Kentucky?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I think we know Mark Pope to be a very passionate guy, when he talked about playing for the name on the front of the jersey, that's his type of spiel, to recruits. We want you, this passion, this love for UK, this, these type of heartfelt guys. And I think those are the guys he landed. You look at the first year, he landed a bunch of seniors, right? Guys they had 1 year left and they just wanted to play for the University of Kentucky. A lot of those guys, I mean, that's what it was. Hey, look, I've got 1 year left. I want to go out playing for the University of Kentucky. So a lot of them probably committed based on heart. Well, you talk about a few of these other guys like Wilkins, McBride, some of these guys coming from these smaller schools, a lot of them, they may be playing they may have committed based off of, man, I want a chance to show my skills on the big stage, right? I want to play for University of Kentucky. Every game's going to be televised. You're going to have the most watch viewers. I want a chance to show But if you get recruits in there, that's not their approach, right? They're not sitting there thinking with their hearts. They're thinking with money symbols in their mind. Well, then you have to have a different type of approach. you have to have a respect about you that sits there and says, yeah, we can pay you because we're going to pay you to be the guy. But at the same time, you're going to learn under my system, and my system can make you 10 times the player that you are right now. And he has to find a way to connect all that to these other ones, because I'm sure you're right. I'm sure these younger ones, especially, all these ones they're all in AU ball together. Once they get all to the McDonald All-Americans, they do all these things together. And then the next thing you know, I'm sure if one guy goes, they'll be like, he's where. I mean, they all kind of collaborate like that a little bit. And so I'm sure that is a rumor going around. I mean, what do you think's getting said by Louisville, right? What do you think if we got a guy that's coming to us and then they go to Louisville, what do you think Louisville's saying about us? I mean, I don't know if Mark Pope's calling Kelsey short or he's he's
you want to play for that midget?
Did you sit there and see the headlock I got him in? Like, I don't know if he's saying anything like that. He's probably been like, oh yeah, I like the color red. Like, that's cool. Like, I mean, they're probably like, what's going on? I mean,
get me out of here.
Seriously though, so I'm sure there is some of that going on. I'm sure they are saying that. So like, he has to be able to adjust because his approach may be able to land those guys that are really just looking to prove themselves. They're there for the heart of it. The money is bonus to them compared to the guys who are really chasing a bag. You have to have a different approach, and that approach is not connecting with them.
Yeah. Mason, we're going to fall short on time, so let's move on. I'm going to send over to you. All right, so let's take a break from Kentucky as far as the questions and all of the stuff with Mark Pope, and let's get into favorite things about Kentucky. Now, we proposed this question out to you, all the fans, and we also thought of some things like, what's our favorite things about being in Kentucky? And this could go anywhere. It could be, food. It could be the weather. It could be basketball, the fandom. It could be anything. Like, what is it that makes Kentucky special? Mason, what is it that, you just love being in Kentucky for the reason or reasons that they are?
Yeah, I think one thing that stands out for me, and I think you notice this a lot when you go other places, it's just kind of the hospitality and the people in Kentucky. It's not everybody, obviously, right? But most people are friendly and, willing to help you out. And, I think back to a few years ago, like, whenever that big tornado came through down in Hopkins County and Dawson Springs. And I mean, it was just, there were so many people there willing to help you out. And I think that's just a lot of Kentucky, and how everybody was raised, and just kind of that small town feel of a lot of these different counties and cities across the state here. Everybody kind of comes together when there's hardships. Everybody's willing to lend you a hand, help you out. They always say Southern hospitality, right? So love that about everybody here in Kentucky. Another one, I know my mom commented on our Facebook post about the Kentucky Derby, which it only happens once a year, but it's really a nationwide thing, right? Like, you see all of these celebrities come in from all across the country, and everybody in the state of Kentucky gets excited, right? Like, that's one of the things we're known for.
It's our thing.
And
yeah.
And, I don't watch horse racing, but obviously every year I tune into the Kentucky Derby, and, a lot of people in the state of Kentucky, they're always having Derby parties, so it's a big event in the state of Kentucky that I think brings a lot of the state together. But also brings a lot of outside people into the state of Kentucky.
The funniest thing about that whole thing with the Kentucky Derby is actually, mainly people in Kentucky know this, and if you are big into horse racing in general, but Churchill Downs, you talk to everybody, is not the place to be for horse racing. It's Keeneland. Like, I've never been to Keeneland, but everybody that I talked to in Kentucky is like, oh, yeah, because I've been to Churchill Downs. I went to Thurby 2 or 3 years ago, and it was awesome. And there's like, you ever been to Keeneland? There's like, oh, not even close, not even in comparison. So I always thought that was kind of funny that, and that's with people, especially who know horse and horse racing. They're like, Keeneland is the place to go. I'm going to go ahead. One of the things for me is just the food. And when I say food, I'm going to get a little bit specific, and I'm going to kind of hit one of our fans, Elijah Geralds. Shout out to you, man, if you're listening. Talk about barbecue. Specifically here in Monroe County barbecue. And one of the things he asked, and I'm gonna tackle this real quick, he was like, "Well, what's the best barbecue place in Monroe County?" And if you don't know Monroe County, you won't understand this as much. But man, we have 5 or 6 barbecues, and here's the way that I look at it. I don't have a favorite barbecue place because it just depends on what I'm wanting. Okay, so let's say that this past Saturday I got done playing golf. If I want shoulder, I'm gonna go to Backyard Barbecue. If I'm feeling like a burger or pork chops, I'm gonna go to Hog Wild. If I'm wanting catfish, you go give me Barbecue Barn. You cannot beat it in America. I put up that and a cup of mild sauce. If I'm wanting shredded pork, I'm gonna go to JD's. If I'm wanting something hotter, I'm gonna go to Anita's. Give me the Thursday special chicken half. And then with you have Francis. I know that Rolling Francis, it's not an actual place anymore, but I could go for their shoulder as well. So every place has its own thing for me. Did I name them all, Colton? I'm not missing any.
Did you say JD's?
I did say JD's.
Yeah, you're good.
So it depends on what food I'm looking for. So that's a hard question, Elijah, because I think they're all special for different ways. Now, some people may prefer something, but I prefer what food am I going to want, and that's where I go. And then another one for me, just in Kentucky in general, is the weather. Fellas, I think that we're really lucky here. We get a really good season in everything, it seems like. For me, we have a good summer. We get to see the fall. We get to see the leaves change. We get a good spring. We get a good winter. And when I say good winter, for me, a good winter is a little bit of snow, just not a crazy, crazy amount of snow where it's just all the time. You get all 4 seasons and you get the best of it, in my opinion. Love the Southern hospitality. I was going to touch on that because my mom also said Southern hospitality. It's so refreshing whenever you go to out west. And you're like, you just know, you know what I mean? If you know, okay, they are definitely from the South, whether it be their accent or just that hospitality in general, saying thank you, or please, or whatever, holding the door, coming up and shaking your hand, talking to you if they see you, or just anything of that nature. Colton, what about you, man? What is it that you just love about Kentucky? We've not said anything about Kentucky sports because I have a feeling we'll get there in a minute, but what about you?
Well, that's kind of where I'm going, and the where I'm going is I love that we live in a state where the people in the state take a lot of pride in being from Kentucky, right? And they take a lot of pride in their sports, and they take a lot of pride in their hometowns and their Friday night football games and their Friday night basketball games and their district tournaments.
Yes, sir.
And you take. You think about the NFL thing. I was remember watching the Chargers or Rams one this year play the Steelers, right? And when you looked at their stadium, 75% of the Chargers or Rams stadium was Steelers fans. I mean, that's completely across the country. And what will you find in the majority of fan base when you travel in especially tournaments or the neutral court sites? Kentucky fans, right? Because there's just so much pride in this one, just the University of Kentucky, but just in the state itself, right? These people, the reason they have so much pride is because they think of it as representing the state, right? They have so much pride and love for the state of Kentucky that the university represents something bigger than itself, right? And so to me, that's what I love so much about Kentucky is you look around and there's so many people here that just take pride in being from here, whether it's food, whether it's sporting events, whether it's the weather, but whatever it is, they take a lot of pride in it. And they stay true to it, and that's big because you in a day and time when everyone wants to move around and go different places and go to warmer weather or go to big cities or anything like that. Kentucky people, I would be interested to see how many people actually leave the state of Kentucky to go live somewhere else, because I may be wrong on that, but I would be very surprised if it wasn't one of the fewer states that people left.
I know that we have people move in here all the time that from Oregon, from LA, and I'm like, what in the world? How in the world do you land here? in Kentucky in a little place like it don't make much sense to me. Mason, do y'all have that a lot? Like just random people that just land that's from
Yeah, and
out west?
I know you're a little bit smaller than where I'm at now, but back when I was selling houses, I mean, we would have people all the time. I mean, move in from California, out west out there. And I think a lot of that comes back to part of it being so expensive out there. And that's another benefit about Kentucky, right?
Oh, yeah, that's another
we
one.
don't have a high cost of living, and a lot of people are easygoing. Like you mentioned, Dylan, pretty good weather. So yeah, I mean, we had a lot of that too.
The best thing whenever I was doing my training in New Jersey, there was this guy. He was a house realtor, and he was asking me about cost of living out here, and he was just wondering about houses because he flipped houses as well on the side. And I was talking to him about, because we had recently purchased our house, and talking to him about like typically like what a house is around here, the market and whatnot. And he was just like, his mind was blown. Like,
Yeah.
what? Like, he's like, there's no way you could even sniff that around here. Like you like that may pay rent for some places, and like a duplex, like talking about a real house with like a 3-4 bedroom house. I'm like, yeah, dude. I mean, it's just different out here. So, last thing I would want to add is just the scenery too. The hills, the hollers, it's just beautiful. And we're lucky, I love living in Kentucky. And what's awesome, Colton, alluding back to yours is, the fandom. You think of people that whenever they leave Kentucky, they don't become, if they move out to, let's just keep going, Oregon, they don't all of a sudden become a huge Oregon fan. They stay locked and loaded with Kentucky. Like they own it. Like that's a part of them. And that's just, I love that. So, good little segment there. We'll do more things like that. Let's get into our last topic for tonight. There has been a rumor, well, not a rumor. It has been put on X that Kentucky hosted Iowa State forward Milan, and I don't know how to pronounce this man's name, but Milan Maklevich from Iowa State, the number one transfer in the portal right now. I don't know, fellas. It'd be awesome if we could land him. I think that he is a missing piece that
Game changer for our roster.
Yeah, is exactly. So go ahead, Mason. Feed off of it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit about him in in the beginning, and I think rumors were circulating that he was probably going to stay in the draft, but I think it's promising that we've at least had a Zoom meeting with him. I hope he didn't think Pope was weird during that Zoom meeting. But like you said, Dylan, I think he really is like that missing piece that we really need. That guy, I mean, he shot at 47% from three last year, I think. Fits Pope's system perfectly. Like, honestly, if Pope doesn't land this guy, like, this is a perfect fit for his system. That stretch four guy who can really stretch the floor. You got these other creators like Pope was talking about with Zoom and Wilkins who can, help get him the ball. But I think that makes our roster miles better. And I know it's just one person, but then you got Zoom, you got Wilkins, you got Cam / Hawthorne there at the 3, and then you have Momcilovic and McBride at the 4, and then you have, Moreno if he comes back. And so I think it makes a huge difference if we can land him, just because again, if we land him, it reminds me so much more of like Pope's first roster, right? Like you almost have every position that can shoot and knock it down. You can spread the floor. You may not have a bunch of guys who can beat you off the dribble, but I think it definitely helps us and is going to put us in a much, much better place. And he may make us all eat our words once we get Momcilovic.
Oh,
but
I hope he does make us eat our words. And the thing about it is, you have to be careful with this too, because he is testing the NBA waters. So you can't look at it as if we miss out on this guy and he goes to the NBA, it's not like, oh man, Mark Pope, you missed out on another guy. No, we don't. We're not going to be that way. Like, he went to the NBA. Now, if he were to go somewhere else, like a LSU or I mean, at this point, I feel like they just keep finding money. Tennessee, Louisville. Then it's like, okay, what happened? Like, and that's what I want to get to you, Colton, right here is we missed out on Tyrone Stokes. We went fishing for him. He was a generational talent, what Mark Pope said. There is some money put aside that we still have left. So do you think in this circumstance that Mark Pope is like, hey, we love your game, we also got a lot of money, man. Now, again, there is this, what I'm hearing is that there was a certain amount of money that was only going to be for Tyron Stokes. So I don't want people to think that, hey, the money that we had to get Tyron Stokes is going to be the same amount of money for Milanovic, however you say his name, from Iowa State. Because I don't think that that's what's going to happen here. I think that there's going to be a big portion that we can still offer him, but it's not going to be the same amount. So at this point, Colton, do we offer him and say, like, hey, do we kind of try to go all in on him if we can? Or do you think that, Pope is trying to be a little bit more feasible with his money and kind of spread it out?
No, I mean, you have to go all in on him. It's the same way that we had to do with Stokes, right? Given the whole drama that happened with Stokes. But, it was unfortunate that we had to do that. But we left ourselves no option, right? We didn't go get some of these other guys. We didn't build a roster that Pope can sit there and say, yes, we are very happy with our roster. And yes, there's pieces there. But at the same time, you force yourself to have to go all in on Stokes and play his game of going back and forth with you because you had to get a guy like that. So now, if you're talking about the number one transfer, a guy who just played for a team who beat you by 20 plus in the second round of the tournament, yeah, I think, and with a lot of schools already spending money, like I would say that you probably have the budget to probably offer him the most of what's left, I would say. I may be wrong on that. There may be some hidden money there from some other schools, but I would say based on who we've spent so far, unless the worst thing that could come out of it is we find out that we paid a bunch of money to some of the guys that we have on the roster right now, and they turn out to not be studs. Yeah, I think you got to go all in, but you've left yourself no choice, right? And I think he would be a great get. So I'm not saying like, oh, you're going to go all in and not get it. Yeah, if you go all in and you get him, I think it's worth it. But you kind of got no choice now. You don't have enough players out there that can truly make a difference on your team to just kind of spread your money around and hope that you bring in a bunch of those type of guys.
Yep. I agree. This is your chance again. And the one thing that I have praised Pope for is that he is trying. It's not like he's not trying. So, but he just keep trying. That's all you can do at this point. So we'll see. And go ahead, Mason.
Yeah, I just want to say one last thing before we, kind of wrap up here on the whole Pope thing. Like, I know a lot of people think that we're being very critical on Pope right now, and we are. But you sit back and think about it. Like, if Pope was not in this position, he would be critical of whoever was coaching Kentucky basketball right now if they were having the same results that Pope was. Anybody who truly loves Kentucky basketball should be critical of what's going on right now. It's okay to be critical, right? Like, I know people are saying, like, oh, you hate Pope, No, we don't hate Pope. Nobody necessarily hates Pope. It's okay to sit here and criticize and say these things need to be better. And Pope would be doing, I guarantee you, if you ask Pope right now, if you said, hey, if somebody else was in your position, would you be saying the same things that people are saying about you? He would say 100% because he cares about Kentucky and he understands what it means to play basketball and to coach basketball and what the University of Kentucky means.
Yeah, and okay, let's just do this real quick. Okay, we have about 5 minutes left. Let's just play the just way too positive, okay? So Colton, you're gonna be way too positive here. All right, and you're all right. Hey Colton, what do you think about Mark Pope this year? Like this past year?
This past year?
Yeah. What do you think about this past year?
Look, I think that he did a good job at rallying the team when injuries occurred.
No. I'm saying play like as if you was a fan that didn't see anything wrong with what's transpiring right now.
Oh.
Like I want you to literally act like you are a fan that's just like blue skies and rainbows.
Yeah, hey, look, we beat Tennessee twice. We still won multiple top 25 games. We won a SEC or two SEC games, right? We won 2 SEC games. We won a NCAA tournament game. We did all this with injuries to 2 or 3 of our top guys. We had a really good season despite all those, circumstances that really went against us. And so now let's give this guy a full roster and a healthy roster and let him cook, because I think that he can do it when he's got a full roster.
And Mason, you're playing poly positive too right here. Hey, what do you think about Mark Pope right now in the recruiting? Like, hey, it's okay that we've missed out on all these 14 guys that's come here. Like, we're okay, right? What do you think? Why do you feel that way?
Yeah, I mean, look, Pope's went out there. He's given it his all. He's went after these players. He's done everything he could. And at the end of the day, there's just some guys who don't want to come here. And I really appreciate Mark Pope going online, addressing some of these concerns and some of these questions from the fan base. But you can't hit on everybody. So he seems very positive right now, and I trust in Mark Pope. I think he's going to get the job done, and I think that he's going to lead us back to number 9.
Yeah, and so I know this may seem silly to you two, but I think look at the bigger picture here, okay?
It's just hard.
It is hard. Well, and that's my point. That is my point. The point of this exercise, Colton, your answer was great. It really was. I know I put you on the spot there, but Colton, what did you not mention? You didn't mention anything about March. You didn't mention anything about getting to an Elite 8, a Final Four. Right?
All right.
And how hard was it for you to sit there and think of how great this season was?
I mean, I started laughing just like Mason did.
So the point is that, yes, everything that you all stated is true. And I think it's important for the ones who've made it this far in the episode. That's why I'm saying this. Like, they're true fans. Like, you are having to stress to make it a point of all the positivity that Mark Pope has brought to UK thus far in his 2-year reign here. And even you, Mason, in your answer, you didn't say anything about landing big-time guys and how he's crushing it in the portal and crushing it with these recruits. He's just trying, and you love his positivity, right? Like that. So that's what we're hearing. And ultimately, is that driving results? Did anything at the end of March? What does Kentucky expect? We are Kentucky. What do we expect? Colton Mott, what is it that Kentucky fans expect?
To have, at the very least, a championship contender roster.
That's a great answer. I'll just leave it at that. I mean,
that's it.
And that's it. Mason, do you have anything else to add on that?
He hit the nail on the head.
I agree. I mean, like that's exactly what we expect here. Like, I think it's reasonable. And I think it's also reasonable for us to be like, hey, we're not going to win. Colton, you said it best. Like, winning a national championship is hard. It is hard to do. There's only one. But as a Kentucky fan, you cannot be okay with not having a roster that has an opportunity and a chance to be there and get us number 9. So, great episode tonight, fellas. Those who've stayed with us, appreciate you all. Again, subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't. Follow our socials on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, we do have a Twitter. I always forget that. But we appreciate y'all. Thank you all. This has been another episode of Bluegrass State of Mind. And as always, go Cats.
Go Cats.
That's a wrap for this episode of Bluegrass State of Mind. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Also, be on the lookout for our social media pages and be sure to follow them. We've got plenty more stories, insights, and conversations coming your way. And if you really loved it, make sure to share it with a friend. From the hills to the hollers, thanks for tuning in. Until next time, keep that Kentucky spirit strong.